David Letterman's index cards scattered across the desk and fell to the floor. Paul Schaefer stopped playing mid. The band went silent. 200 people in Studio 6A held their breath. Sitting across from Dave was Carl Sagan, the astronomer who made the universe accessible, the voice of Cosmos, the man who taught America to look up at the stars. And right now, on this September night in 1985, Carl Sagan was crying. Not about space, not about science, about his son, about failure, about a letter he'd never answered. And what he was about to reveal would shatter the image of the rational science and expose the human cost of reaching for infinity while losing what's right in front of him. September 19th, 1985. Studio 6A at Rockefeller Center, New York City. Late Night with David Letterman was at its creative peak. The smartest show on television. The wood-paneled studio glowed under warm tungsten light. The retro desk sat center stage. Paul Schaefer's keyboard gleamed. The Manhattan skyline sparkled through tall windows. David Letterman, 38 years old, sat behind his desk shuffling his famous blue index card. His curly brown hair was characteristically disheveled. His tie hung loose. Tonight, he was genuinely excited. Not talk show host excited, actually excited. Tonight's guest was his hero, Carl Sagan. The booking had taken 2 years. Sagan was the most famous scientist in America, maybe the world. His PBS series, Cosmos, had been watched by 500 million people in 60 countries. His book, Contact, was a bestseller. He'd advised NASA, testified before Congress, and somehow made the incomprehensible beauty of the universe understandable to ordinary people. That voice, that distinctive, reverent voice that said, "Billions and billions," had become part of American culture. At 51, Sagan was at the height of his influence, but he was also exhausted. The fame, the speaking engagement, the constant travel, the pressure to be humanity's ambassador to the cosmos. It was crushing him in ways nobody saw. The monologue went perfect. Dave killed with jokes about the Reagan administration and fall television. The audience loved. Paul's band was tight. Everything clicked. Then came the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dave said, genuine awe in his voice, "my next guest is the reason I look up at the sky different." He's an astronomer, astrophysicist, author, and the host of the most watched PBS series in history. He's made billions of people care about billions of stars. Please welcome Dr. Carl Sagan. The audience erupted. This wasn't celebrity applause. This was respect. This was gratitude. This was people meeting someone who'd expanded their mind. Paul's band played Cosmos theme, that beautiful, haunting Vangelis music. The curtain pulled back, and Carl Sagan walked out. He moved with careful, academic grace. He wore a simple brown suit, cream turtleneck underneath, no tie. His hair was dark, slightly long, falling across his forehead. His face was open, kind, eternally curious. Those eyes seemed to be calculating distances and meaning simultaneously. Dave stood, shook his hand. Sagan's handshake was gentle, thoughtful, the grip of a man more comfortable with telescopes than people. He sat in the guest chair, crossed his leg, folded his hand. Perfect posture. A man used to lectures and camera. "Dr. Sagan, thank you for being here," Dave said. "Please call me Carl, and thank you for having." That voice, precise, musical, every word considered. They talked about Cosmos, about the Voyager mission, about the possibility of life on other planets. Sagan spoke with that trademark wonder, making distant galaxies feel intimate, making the incomprehensible feel within reach. "Carl, you said that we're all made of star stuff, that the atoms in our bodies came from exploding stars billions of years ago. Can you explain that?" Sagan's face lit up. This was his element, making the universe personal. Every atom of oxygen in your lung, every atom of carbon in your cell, every atom of iron in your blood, they were forged in the hearts of dying stars. We are, quite literally, the universe becoming conscious of itself. The audience was mesmerized. This was poetry disguised as science. "So when you look up at the stars," Sagan continued, "you're not looking at something foreign. You're looking at your ancestors, your origin, home." Dave leaned forward. "That's beautiful, but also kind of overwhelming. Doesn't it make you feel small? Insignificant?" Something flickered across Sagan's face. The wonder dimmed slightly. "Yes," he said quietly, "it does." And in that moment, Dave saw something. A crack in the armor. A sadness underneath the cosmic optimism. "Can I ask you something personal?" Dave said, diverging from his card. Sagan has then nodded. "With all this focus on the cosmos, on billions of years and light years of distance, do you ever lose sight of what's close? What's here?" What Carl Sagan said next would shatter the myth of the rational, unfeeling science. Sagan was quiet for a long time. Too long for television. The audience shifted, uncertain, but Dave waited. Let the silence hold. Finally, Sagan spoke. "My son Jeremy wrote me a letter 3 months ago. He's 14. It's in my briefcase right now. I haven't answered it yet." His voice cracked slightly. "Do you know what the letter says?" "It says, 'Dad, I know the universe is important, but am I important too?'" The studio went silent. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, the terrible silence of witnessing something break. "I got that letter while I was on a plane to Australia to give a lecture about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and I read it, and I put it in my briefcase, and I told myself I'd respond when I got back. Sagan's hand, which had been perfectly still, began to tremble. But then there was another lecture, another conference, another interview, and I still haven't answered. It's been 3 months, and my 14-year-old son asked me if he mattered, and I still haven't answered. A woman in the front row started crying. I spend my life searching for life in the cosmos, Sagan continued, his voice breaking now. I've dedicated everything to the question of whether we're alone in the universe, and meanwhile, my own son feels alone in our house. Dave's prepared questions were forgotten. The comedy abandoned. This was real. Carl, Dave said softly, why haven't you answered? Sagan looked at him with eyes full of pain. Because I don't know what to say. How do I tell my son that yes, he matters, when my actions prove otherwise? How do I explain that I care about him while I'm never there? How do I reconcile dedicating my life to understanding the cosmos while failing to understand my own child? He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I can explain black holes and supernovas and the birth of galaxies, but I can't explain to my son why I missed his last 3 birthdays, why I forgot his school play, why I know the distance to Alpha Centauri but can't remember the last time I asked him how his day was. The audience was frozen. This wasn't what anyone expected. Carl Sagan, the voice of reason, the prophet of the cosmos, was falling apart. There's a photo the Voyager spacecraft took, Sagan said, trying to compose himself. The pale blue dot. It shows Earth from 4 billion miles away. Just a tiny speck in a sunbeam. I use it in lectures to show how small we are, how insignificant our problems seem from that distance. He paused. But you know what I realized? From 4 billion miles away, you can't see people. You can't see family. You can't see a 14-year-old boy wondering if his father loves. Perspective can be beautiful, but it can also be an escape. And then Carl Sagan did something that would change science communication forever. Sagan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. His hands were shaking visibly. This is Jeremy's letter. I've been carrying it for 3 months. Can I read on television? Dave nodded, not trusting his voice. Sagan unfolded the paper carefully, like it might disintegrate. Dear Dad, he began, his voice barely steady. I watched your show Cosmos again last night. The episode about the voyage. You talked about sending a message to aliens, about wanting them to know we exist. And I wonder, do you know I exist? His voice broke completely. He paused, trying to breathe. I'm not alien. I'm not on another planet. I'm in my room down the hall. But sometimes I feel like I need to be 1 billion miles away for you to notice. The audience was openly crying now. Paul Schaefer sat motionless at his keyboard, tears streaming down his face. You always say we're made of star stuff, Sagan continued reading, that we're the universe experiencing itself. But I don't feel like the universe. I just feel like your son, and I feel like that's not enough. Sagan's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the paper. I'm not angry, Dad. I'm just sad because I love you, and I'm proud of you, and I want you to be proud of me too. But I don't know how to be a galaxy or a black hole or something cosmic enough to matter. He looked up from the letter directly at the camera. The letter ends with, I know the universe is important, but am I important too? Love, Jeremy. And I still haven't answered. Sagan folded the letter carefully, put it back in his pocket, and completely broke down. Deep, wrenching sob. This man who'd contemplated the infinite, who'd made peace with humanity's cosmic insignificance, couldn't handle his own son's pain. Dave did what he'd done before. He stood up, walked around his desk, and sat on the floor beside Sagan's chair, looking up at him. Present, Carl, Dave said gently. Answer him now. Sagan looked down at this young comedian sitting at his feet, offering a kind of grace he didn't deserve. I don't know what to say. Yes, you do. You're Carl Sagan. You sent messages to aliens. You can send a message to your son. Sagan turned to look at the camera, at millions of people watch, at wherever Jeremy might be. Jeremy, he said, his voice raw but steady, you asked if you're important, and the answer is yes. You're not just important, you're everything. He paused, gathering strength. I've spent my life studying stars that died billions of years ago, but you're alive right now, right here, and I've been looking so far away that I missed what's in front of me. His voice grew strong. You don't need to be a galaxy to matter to me. You matter because you're you, because you exist, because you're my son, and I'm sorry it took months and a television show to say that out loud. Paul Schaefer began to play. Softly, the Cosmos theme, but slowed down, played like a lullaby, like an apology, like a father singing to a child. I've been searching for meaning in the universe, Sagan continued, speaking to the camera, to Jeremy. But the meaning is here, in you, in the question you asked, in the love that made you ask. He stood up slowly. Dave stood with, I'm coming home tonight, Sagan said. Not next week, not after the next conference, tonight, and I'm going to answer your letter properly, face to face, the way I should have 3 months ago. What happened in the next 60 seconds would prove that some moments transcend television. From the back of the studio, a production assistant hurried forward, holding a phone. She looked terrified, like she was breaking every rule. Dr. Sagan, she said breathlessly, your son is on the phone. He's watching. He wants to talk to you. The studio gasped. This wasn't planned. This was real life interrupting television. Sagan's face went white. then flushed. Jeremy? The production assistant nodded, holding out the phone. Dave made a snap decision. He gestured to the camera. Keep rolling. This matters more than any of our rules. Sagan took the phone with trembling hands. The studio microphones picked up his voice, but barely. It was soft, private. A father talking to his son. Jeremy? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The audience couldn't hear the other side, but they could see Sagan's face. The pain, the relief, the love. Yes, I mean it. Every word. No, you don't need to apologize. This is my fault. I know, buddy. I know. I love you too. Sagan turned away from the camera slightly, trying to keep something private even in this public moment. I'm coming home tonight. We're going to talk. Really talk. And I'm going to do better. I promise. No, not a busy promise. A real promise. He listened for a moment. The universe can wait. You can't. You won't wait. You're growing up right now, and I'm missing it, and that's unforgivable. But if you let me, I want to try again. Another pause. I love you too, Jeremy. So much. More than all the stars in all the galaxy. I mean that. He handed the phone back to the production assistant and turned to face the audience. His face was streaked with tears, but something else was there too. Relief, hope. The weight of 3 months lit. The audience erupted, not with applause, but with something deeper. Witness, gratitude, the sound of people recognizing something true. Dave stood beside Carl. What did he say? Sagan smiled through his tears. He said, Dad, you don't have to be on TV to tell me you love me, but I'm glad you did, because now I know you mean it. He looked at the camera one more time. To every parent watching this, everyone who's working hard, chasing dreams, trying to do important things, don't lose sight of what's most important. Don't make my mistake. Don't let the distant stars blind you to the light right in your own home. He paused. The universe will be here in 1 billion years. Our children won't. And when the stars finally burn out and the cosmos goes dark, the only thing that will have mattered is how we loved each other. Paul played them out. The full cosmos theme now, but somehow it sounded different. Less about the vastness of space, more about the intimacy of connect. Dave walked Sagan to the curtain. Before he left, Sagan turned back. Thank you, Dave, for letting me be human on television, for letting me fail public, for giving me the space to start being the father I should have been all along. Dave nodded, unable to speak. And what happened after that night would transform Carl Sagan's legacy forever. NBC executives didn't know what to do with the footage. It was too raw, too real, too far from entertainment. They aired it once and buried it. But Carl Sagan's life changed completely. He canceled his next 3 speaking engagements, took a month off from Cornell, and spent that time with Jeremy. Really spent. No lectures in his head, no papers to write, just a father and son making up for lost time. They went camp, looked at stars together, but this time Sagan let Jeremy do the talk, let his son show him constellations, point out planets, ask questions. For the first time in years, Carl Sagan listened more than he lectured. In his journal from that month, Sagan wrote, I've spent my career trying to understand the cosmos, but I never understood that the most complex, mysterious, precious thing in the universe was sitting across the dinner table from me every night. He changed his approach to everything, started writing books that were as much about human connection as cosmic wonder, started declining invitations that would take him away from his family, started understanding that the search for meaning in the stars was hollow if he lost meaning at home. His next book, The Demon-Haunted World, had a dedication that surprised everyone. To Jeremy, who taught me that the most important question can't be answered with telescopes. Jeremy Sagan grew up to become a science journalist. In his first major article, published in 1995, he wrote about that night on Letterman. My father spent his life teaching people to look up, Jeremy wrote. But that night, he looked at, and it changed everything. Not just for us, but for everyone watching who recognized themselves in his failure and his redemption. When Carl Sagan died of pneumonia in 1996 at age 62, the obituaries focused Cosmos on Voyager, on his contributions to science. But at his funeral, Jeremy spoke. My father taught billions of people to wonder about the universe, Jeremy said, but he taught me something more important. He taught me that it's okay to fail, to lose your way, to get so focused on the distant that you forget the near, and that it's never too late to turn around, to come home, to answer the letter. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. The letter, 14 years old now, worn from being carried. He kept this in his pocket until the day he died, Jeremy said, as a reminder of what mattered, of what he almost lost, of what he got back. Dave Letterman attended the funeral. Afterward, he stood at Sagan's grave for a long time. A reporter asked him what he was thinking. I'm thinking about that night in 1985, Dave said. The night Carl Sagan stopped being a scientist and started being a father. The night he chose Earth over the cosmos. What did you learn from? The reporter asked. That knowledge without love is empty. That understanding the universe means nothing if you don't understand the people right in front of you. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop looking up and start looking at eye level. But here's what nobody knew until Jeremy Sagan revealed it years later. After that Letterman appearance, Carl started a tradition. Every night, before he looked at his research, before he worked on his paper, he would sit with Jeremy for 30 minutes. Just talk about anything, about nothing, about school, friends, dreams, fear. And he'd always start the same way. Tell me something that matters to you today. For 11 years, until Sagan's death, they never missed a night. Even when Carl was traveling, he'd call. Even when he was sick, he'd ask, tell me something that matters to you today. That ritual, Jeremy said, saved their relationship, saved his father's legacy, saved because, Jeremy wrote in his memoir, my father realized that searching for intelligence in the universe is meaningless if you don't recognize the intelligence in your own home, that discovering new worlds means nothing if you lose the world you've already got. The legacy of that night isn't about science or space or cosmic wonder. It's about priority, about what we sacrifice in pursuit of the extraordinary while ignoring the ordinary miracles right in front of us. Carl Sagan taught us to look at the stars, but that night on Letterman, he taught us something more important. Look at each other, listen to each other, answer each other's letters, because billions of years from now, when all the stars have burned out and the universe has grown cold, the only thing that will echo is love. The only thing that will matter is whether we showed up for each other, whether we answered when someone asked, am I important too? Carl Sagan almost got that, but he got it right in time. And that's the real cosmos message. Not that we're made of star stuff, but that we're made for each other. And sometimes the most profound discovery isn't in distant galaxies, it's in answering a 14-year-old's letter.